All right, now we commence the second session of this forum. The main theme of this session is Civil Society Talk Concert, Aging in Place, Best Practices and Experiments in Civil Society. In this session, there will be 5 presentations followed by a panel discussion, and Ms. Young-Sook will be the moderator. She is the chair of the International Solidarity Center of Korea Women's Associations United. And I will introduce our 5 speakers. Mr. Mark Harrington, National Manager of Age-Friendly Island, is with us online. And Dr. Ming, Board Director at Habitat for Humanity Hong Kong, is here with us. Dr. Alberto Infante, Secretary General of HelpAge Spain, is with us online. And Mr. Wisoi송크램, CEO of the Foundation for Older Persons Development, is with us online. And we have Dr. Jong-hee Kim, the representative of the Gangwon Medical Welfare Social Corporation. Okay, please come up to the stage, please. Our moderator and 2 speakers. Please come up to the stage. Dr. Ming, please come up to the stage and take your seats. Thank you. And Dr. Jong-hee Kim, please come forward to the stage. Okay, so I'll pass the microphone to our moderator. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, and I'm gonna start the session 2. This session we're gonna share about the various projects and experiment about the aging in places, especially. So we're gonna have 5 speakers from the 5 different countries. So I'm gonna introduce the speakers first. Fourth speaker from the island, aging-friendly island, Mr. Mark Harrington is a national manager. He has, over 20 years experience in the local government sector in Ireland. He has worked in finance, planning, and more recently in housing with a responsibility for the delivery of homelessness services, estate management, private rental, inspections, and traveler accommodations. He is currently national manager of the Healthy Age Friendly Homes program, which aims to support older people to live in their own home with dignity and independence for as long as possible and reduce the number and rate of transfer to long-term residential care. And second speakers from Hong Kong Habitat, Mr. Ming, Professor Ming is a board director of the Habitat for Humanity Hong Kong. He's here now. Professor joined the Habitat of Humanity Hong Kong as a director in 2021 and is now co-chair of the Committee of Impact. Professor Ib is an expert in housing and urban policy and published widely in international academic journals and is an editor of the International Housing Journal, Housing Studies since 2013. And third speaker from Spain, he is Mr. Alberto Infante. He is a Secretary General of HelpAge Spain. He's a doctor in medicine and public health and health management specialist. And he worked for the Ministry of Health of Spain as a Director General. And also he is still a professor of emeritus at the National School of Public Health, Madrid, Spain. And fourth speaker from Thailand, Mr. Wisoi송크램. He's a Deputy Director of Foundation for Older Person Development Thailand. He's a Deputy of the Foundation for Older Person Development and as well as the CEO of Buddy Home Care Social Enterprises company located in Chiang Mai, Thailand. He has 12 years experience since 2008 in Asian issues from working at the Foundation for Older Person Development. And in 2019, he initiated a social business body home care to provide impoverished youth with a training and job opportunity to be a caregiver for old adults, while also providing older people with cost-effective, high-quality home care services. And last speakers, he's from Korea, Gangwon area. Jong-hee Kim, representative of Gangwon Medical Welfare Social Cooperative. Dr. Jong-hee Kim is a compassionate and dedicated physician who embarked on a transformative journey after questioning the purpose of his life. Through the volunteer work in Thailand and Cambodia, he discovered his passion for serving others and the profound impact of healthcare on individuals' life. We have, 2 speakers in the floor, and we have 3 more speakers at the Zoom. So as I already introduced, we're going to start from the speakers from the island. Mr. Mark Harrington, National Manager, HelpAge Friendly Homes. We're going to have 15 minutes.
Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen there. Bear with me.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, hello everyone, and firstly, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today and be part of this great conference. I'm Mark Harrington. I'm the National Manager of the Healthy Age Friendly Homes Programme here in Ireland. We're part of Age Friendly Ireland, which is a shared service within local government. So I'm going to be talking to you about the Healthy Age Friendly Homes Programme this morning. And what I'm going to do is start by letting you listen to the voice of the older person.
And going up and down, with lack of vision and with dangerous. I tripped very easily on the stairs, hence the advantage of the chair. Unable to go out. I could go out with help, I suppose, but what's the point? You can't see. So if you're in a car, you're just driving in a cloud. So you just take it as to stay at home. I cannot watch the television or anything like that. I cannot read or write anymore. And I'm dependent on other people all the time.
As a result of my rheumatoid arthritis, from the visit of the district nurse, I had to have my bed downstairs. She recommended that I have a commode, and she was very helpful. So I do miss the shower. So I'm hoping that I will be able to get the lift, and that maybe the bathroom will be sorted out. Like I used to feel a lot of the time that I was losing my, not my grip, but my self-worth, if you like, because I just couldn't do my basics.
I fell twice in the bath, having tried to have a shower, and I tore on my back, and I was black and blue. So I decided something happened.
Myself and Eddie in the house, and my arthritis was so bad, and Eddie got a bad back, helping me up and down the stairs. Things couldn't go on the way they were.
So I know the theme of the conference is human rights for older persons. So I thought it would be only appropriate that we heard the voice of the older person to start with. And there's some of the challenges that our older persons and participants of our program are facing, trying to live their lives in their own home, more healthier lives within their own home. So what is the Healthy Age Friendly Homes program? It's a new way of working for us in Ireland. It's a collaboration between the Department of Health and the Department of Housing and Local Government. And as we go through the presentation this morning, you'll probably see why that collaboration is there. So the program is funded by the Department of Health and operated by Age Friendly Ireland, which is a shared service in local government. So the rationale behind the Department of Health funding it obviously is there's the cost benefits to the Department of Health. And the benefits of it being run through local government is that the role of the support local coordinator is best fitted within local government because the structures are within local government. And as I say, this will become clearer as we go through the presentation this morning. So Age Friendly Ireland, and again, you'll see from our videos there of the older person, the key ethos of Age Friendly Ireland is the voice of the older person and making sure that the voice of the older person is representative at all stages, be that through the programme itself or through policies and implementing policies within Ireland. So the Healthy Age Friendly Homes programme, it's a programme of support coordination for older persons. And the main aims of the programme are to enable the older person to continue living in their own homes or a home more suited to their needs, live with a sense of independence and autonomy, be and feel part of their community, and support the avoidance of early or premature admissions into long-term care. So as I said to you, that's the rationale of the Department of Health funding the roles, and again, we'll see why local government is rolling that out. So I'm going to talk you through the process of the programme from start to finish, and then maybe show a few case studies at the end as well. So the referral pathways, we're going to start with the referral pathways, and we've been operational as a pilot for the last 2 years in 9 local authority sites. And what we've been seeing as the main referral pathways are self-referral. So we get a lot of so it's older persons self-referring in, and we're seeing that more so as the program has established. Family and friends are referring in, but we also get referrals in from professionals. So a lot of public health nurse referrals, occupational therapists, primary care teams. We have strong link-ins with the National Integrated Care Programme for older persons, and so we get referrals in from their municipal teams. We have local authority staff. Because we're based in the local authority, we get some referrals in from local authority staff. General practitioners, our elected representatives, and then community groups, because we are out within the community and we're linking in with community groups. We get referrals in from community groups. So that's where our referrals are coming from. I suppose it's key to note that the program itself is a free service. It's not means tested, so anybody can refer in, and there's no means tested. So we have participants from local authority housing to private housing to rental housing. So the referrals were not prescriptive in relation to where we receive our referrals from. So on receipt of the referral, our support coordinator will go out and they'll carry out a needs assessment within the older person's home. So they'll go out and visit the home, they'll carry out a needs assessment. That needs assessment takes about, in most cases, takes about an hour. And what the key domains that the local coordinator will focus on is housing, community and social, finance, health, technology supports, and energy and warmer homes. And some of the key supports that we're providing under each of them categories are in the housing. We're looking at housing adaptation. So how can we assist the older person adapting their homes to make it safer for them and better for them to live in. Right sizing. So within the first 2 years, we've assisted quite a few people to right size into more appropriate housing, age friendly housing, and then general maintenance around the house. From a health point of view, we'll have a lot of link-ins with the public health nurse, supporting people getting home help, linking in with occupational therapists and linking in with their primary care teams. From a community point of view, it's about, we're seeing it over the last 2 years and since we've come out of COVID, is a lot of isolation. So from a community and social point of view, we're linking people in with befriending services, community groups, community activities, and we're also linking them into their library services, which is through the local government, which would have a lot of services as well. Technology supports are the main ones that we've been helping people with are pendant alarms, fall detectors, and we're linking in with Age Action here in Ireland, and we're able to provide people with free carbon monoxide alarms and get them fitted within the home as well to make the home safer. From a warmer homes point of view, we strong link-ins, and you'll see in one of the slides coming up with our Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, and that's to help people get grants to retrofit their homes to make their homes more warmer and safer homes for them to live in. And we provide a home energy assessment. Again, I'll talk about that in a couple of slides time. From a finance point of view, obviously this is becoming more prevalent with the cost of living crisis. So what we do is obviously give advice and information on what entitlements the older person would be entitled to in regard to allowances, pension benefits, and general information in finance. So the local coordinator go out, they'll provide information in the first place. They'll signpost to support, so existing supports that are there, and help the older person and signpost them to them supports. Facilitate the process. So for want of a better word, hand-holding. So a lot of the supports that we would be helping older people would be in relation to housing or warmer homes, or even from a finance point of view, would need applications. And some of these applications aren't easy to navigate, particularly if they've no family supports around them. So we'll facilitate that full process. We'll implement an individualized support action plan for the older person. We'll track the progress. So we're not just there to signpost somebody to a support. Once we have them to get that support, we'll follow up and make sure that the support has been provided and that they're satisfied with the support. But the key to the program is it's about enabling and empowering the older person to make that decision themselves. So we're there to give them all the information that's there, but it's really up to the older person to decide themselves with all that information. What do they want to do, and what do they feel is best for them in their current circumstances, and what supports do they need? So the decision at all times is the older person's decision. So we have a couple of key partnerships, and I mentioned a few of them there in an earlier slide. We have a couple of new ways of working. So we're linked in with the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, and what we've agreed is a 1.5 million annual funding stream, and this is enabling us to provide a home energy assessment for our older persons that we're visiting. So what the home energy assessment is, it gives them a BER rating, so it rates their house from an energy point of view. It then tells them what works are required to get it up to a B2 standard. It will then estimate the works. The report will estimate the works, and then it will also calculate the grants that the person is entitled to. So at the end of the process, the older person will know whether they're entitled to the grants. They know what works would be required. They'll know exactly what the cost is with the grants available. So again, it's about fully informing the person and helping them through that process. And again, this is through this SEAI in Ireland. It's free to the participant. It costs usually about $400 or $500 if you were to do it on your own. We've linked in with a technology assistive device company. So this facilitates the provision of technology assisted device. So what we're seeing, as I said to you, is our pendant alarms, our fall detectors. What we've also received at the end of last year was additional healthcare funding for the provision of a pan watch. So it's a wearable device, has a fall detector on it. You can wear it out in the community. So it works, and the GPS works as you're out and about in the community. And we've also provided age-friendly tablets to the older person as well. So that's for 2 years. And again, we'll be evaluating that. It's free. And we've done it for about 330 participants of the program. And we're going to evaluate that and see what kind of impact and health impacts that has on the older person. Hopefully looking at maybe is seeking additional funding to roll it out nationally as our program rolls out nationally. And new ways of working. So what we've developed is a service mapping tool, and what we started with was health points. So with our own health department here, we established the key health points within the community. So your facilities for older persons, GPs, pharmacies, disability services. and we overlaid that with information from our community groups. So we've put community groups over that, social, recreational, and we've also identified transport. So that's one of the main issues that our older people are telling us when we're out doing a needs assessment, is transport has become an issue. So getting to their hospital appointments is an issue. So what we've done is we put the transport points there, and it's interactive, and it allows the older person and the coordinator see what transport is available for the older person within the community. Across our 9 sites in phase 1, we had 30,000 points of interest, and it's enabled the coordinator to provide the best service possible for the older person when they're visiting them and carrying out the needs assessment. So this is Peter. You would have seen Peter in the video at the start. So we have a couple of case studies here. I'm just going to run through them, and it kind of helps you see what the program is all about and the service that the local coordinator is providing to the older person. So this is Peter. Peter is in his mid-80s. He has a visual impairment. He's living with his 2 siblings who are also in their 80s. They're living in a house, a 3-story house that's over 100 years old. So when the coordinator called out to Peter and put the plan in place, the supports that were provided was a referral into the National Council for the Blind of Ireland, and Peter availed of a text-to-read device, which enables him to read newspapers and his post now. A referral was made to the occupational therapist. So Peter was using a wooden stool and as a shower chair within his shower. So what was provided by the OT was a shower chair, support bars, a new toilet seat. Peter then was successful in applying through our support coordinator for a housing grant. And the housing grant has enabled works of upgrading the electrics. So all sockets are now raised from ground level to accessible level. There's a new fuse board installed, rewiring of the heating system, external lighting was put in place, and a cooker switch has been installed so that Peter and his family can now purchase an electric stove instead of using a gas cooker. So Peter and his siblings in their 80s were lifting a gas cylinder up to the first floor of the house as the kitchen was on the first floor. So you can imagine the health implications of that. So a stair lift has now been put in place. It's custom made to fit the stairs spanning the 3 floors, and all 3 siblings can now access the all floor safely. So an application was made for the fuel allowance and household benefits packages through social welfare, and both of them now have been approved. So there's more income coming into the house and helping them with their fuel and alleviating any fuel poverty issues. Availed of a free home energy assessment. So that's the assessment we talked about earlier. So a survey and report has now been complete, and Peter has now qualified for the Better Home scheme based on his fuel allowance. So Peter has qualified for a full retrofit of the home, making the home warmer and upgrading the home to a B2 standard, which is obviously going to have major implications on the warmth of the home, and then obviously knock-on effects for the health of both Peter and his siblings. Peter was referred into our Tunstall and received the Pebble device. So because of Peter's visual impairment, the watch wasn't an option for him. So a Pebble device is what he's wearing. So again, it's a wearable device which has a fall detector and allows Peter to contact the emergency services 24/7. So Peter and his siblings had to move out of their home for a week while the electric works were taking place. The local coordinator supported them with sorting suitable accommodation and negotiated with the electrician who originally wanted them to move out for 2 weeks to do that works within a 1-week period. So the outputs for Peter is restoration of confidence, falls prevention, re-engagement with services. So when the coordinator went back out recently, she was there, home help was there, Meals on Wheels were there. Previous to the support coordination in place, nobody was calling to the house. And again, the overall avoidance of long-term care, not just for Peter, but also for his 2 siblings. And then we'll just quickly go over Geraldine's case. So you would have seen Geraldine at the start of the video there. So Geraldine is 66 years of age, living alone. Geraldine was referred into the program by the HSE occupational therapist through the primary care team. So Geraldine has complex health needs, which affects her mobility. Geraldine has a bed in her sitting room, so downstairs in her living room, and she's using a commode as she currently cannot get up the stairs due to her condition. So similar to Peter, we linked Geraldine in with the housing department and the local authority, and Geraldine has now availed of a housing adaptation grant, and works have been carried out for the stair lift and accessible shower and her bathroom grants. So the works have completed on that. Coordinator assisted Geraldine with gathering the supplementary document needed for the application and linking in with Revenue, Department of Finance for her local property tax. Assisted in making an application for a bin waiver, so she doesn't have to pay for the bins again, which helps her from a finance point of view. She had the SAI Warmer Homes grant application, which has been successful, and then works are going to be commencing in the next month. She liaised with the local care and repair team to have 2 smoke alarms and a carbon monoxide alarm installed in the home, and again, that was done free of charge. She availed of the telecare package, so the pan watch, the fall detector, and the age-friendly tablets. Assisted Geraldine with filling out the application for the state pension, which was approved, and then payments have commenced. So again, relieving the financial burden on Geraldine. So similar to Peter's case, restoration of confidence, fall prevention, self-worth, independence. So it's the first time that Geraldine has been up the stairs in her own bedroom and bathroom for a 2-year period. And again, the avoidance of long-term residential care. So, so both participants are living in warmer homes and more suited to their needs, and with adaptations, with the provision of technology assistive devices and sustainable health and community supports in place to help them age in place and live longer, healthier lives within their own communities. And maybe just to point out before we finish off as well, that we've had many examples where a participant after being involved in the program has had a health episode, and it has meant that the participant can go back into their home quicker as the services and supports are in place, and allowing them to be discharged at a faster rate from acute hospital settings. So I started with the older person and the voice of the older person. So I think it's only appropriate that we finish with the voice of the older person and let them tell you how the program has had a positive impact on their health.
Mary here, and the grants makes life very, very comfortable and takes away all the danger, and I feel more relaxed. Oh, it's total transformed my life now. Living at home, I stay at home for good now. There's no talk about going into care or anything like that. Even though lots of sight is there and it's difficult, I can stay at home now in my own home quite safely and comfortably, yeah.
Since I got the wet room done, it has been absolutely marvelous. I can have my shower, use my creams, and I can use the loo and feel like a normal person again. And that is absolutely wonderful. It's given me back my dignity. If I hadn't been referred to this program, I don't know what I would have done or how I would have managed. So it has really enhanced my life. I can't thank the age-friendly people enough.
The more people that find out about this, the better. I feel there's people living in circumstances and they're afraid to tell their own families that they're not coping. And this way they can get themselves sorted and have a think about things and take their time.
It's a new lease of life for me, myself personally. It's the freedom of being able to leave my home and come back to my home. I wouldn't want to go anywhere else. I wouldn't go to a nursing home. Nothing wrong with nursing homes, but I prefer my own corner. It's my first home and it'll be my last home.
Okay, thank you for Mr. Harrington. So it's really valuable voice you gave us. So avoiding long-term care, so that message is very, very important, especially we are discussing about how we can live in our own, house until we die. So that, issue actually, I think we need a very comprehensive, tools and technologies, as well as whole, referral services. So we're gonna have a lot of questions about your presentations. So I think maybe later there are gonna be many questions will raised. So I'm gonna actually introduce the next speakers, Professor Ming from Hong Kong Habitat. He also, elaborate lots of, issue regarding the aging in places. So, Mr. Ip, you have 15 minutes as well.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, and thanks for the organizer to give me an opportunity to share the work of Habitat for Humanity Hong Kong on aging in place for older people. So before I start my presentation, let me introduce Habitat for International briefly. And Habitat for International is an international housing NGO established in the United States in 1976, and with an aim to help people to build homes, community, and more important, hope. And in fact, over the years, we have helped over 46 million people to build their home. And our presence in Hong Kong is relatively short. We only established in 2004. And over the years, we have done a lot of work. And recently, in fact, we have engaged in quite elaborating pilot projects on aging in place. So that is the focus of my introduction. So before I introduce the projects, I will briefly introduce some context of housing and aging population in Hong Kong, and then to emphasize on our approach in aging in place, because the services we provided is not the most important, but the approach to involve other stakeholders in providing the services. And then I will elaborate a little bit more on the case studies, and lastly, the lessons we have learned from these pilot projects. And about the housing and aging population in Hong Kong, there's a few things perhaps I have to highlight. Hong Kong is one of the richest cities in the world, and I think we ran about 10, 11 as the richest cities in the world. But we also have a very serious issues of income polarization. So in fact, nearly a quarter of the population live below the poverty line. And a lot of people, they have to rely on the public sector to solve the housing problem. We have the biggest public housing sector in the world, but still we have nearly 250,000 households on the public housing waiting list who have to wait on the average about 5 to 6 years for public housing. And those who are not in their public housing sectors, in fact, a lot of them live in very dilapidated and very congested home. And also nearly a quarter of a million households, people who live in what we call the subdivided unit, which are small partition in some normal housing flat. So normal housing flats have been divided into 5 to 6 rooms, and each family, they only occupy about 10 to 12 to 13 square meters. This is extremely congested. We also have a very rapidly aging population, like many countries, for instance, Sweden, South Korea, we have mentioned. But more importantly, is many of those old people, they also live in dilapidated aging buildings with a serious problem. So these are perhaps some of the very serious living quality issues many old people have to face. Although these are only the very small minority, but many of them are not much better than these conditions. So talking about the aging population, and now we are nearly the age structure as New Zealand, we just mentioned this morning, or more or less like South Korea. So now we have 16% of people who are over the age of 65. But according to a recent United Nations report, in 2050, Hong Kong will be most aging cities in the world, even more than South Korea and Japan, although they are very close. So we are expecting about a quarter of our population age over the age of 65. So in fact, aging in place has been a very important policy issues and direction in Hong Kong. And with the same reason that the speaker this morning or the early afternoon has elaborated. But we, as a housing organization, Habitat for Humanity, have emphasized for the housing solution, not just to solve the housing problem, but to have a support health and mobility need of the older residents, which at the age that are critical for them. So what I'm going to introduce is a project we have initiated a few years ago on aging in place. But our emphasis is not just on providing services. Our main emphasis is to build trust by involving local community and other partners in launching a meaningful and significant help to people to age in their home. So to put into practice, in fact, we have identified a number of stakeholders, which includes so-called opinion leaders and other NGOs who advocate for elderly housing policies. But we also include our donors, particularly corporate donors, because Hong Kong have a lot of rich people, and some of them, in fact, they have established private charity organizations, and which will give funding to organizations, but with some purpose, with some projects that will produce significant impact to the society. And we would also provide the coordination to those so-called major opinion leaders like the university who initiate very meaningful research, looking at the future of the need of the old people, and also to channel those so-called donations from the donors and to share with our other partners of NGO to provide meaningful services for the elderly, which includes so-called traditional NGO who provide public services, social services, but also with other organizations like the Domestic Helper Union and other social enterprises and other social organizations. So this is what we call the project Homework that we initiated a few years ago. We call it Homework because we have other projects, we call it Schoolwork, which do some improvement for schools, but also to mobilize students to do volunteer work for the elderly, for instance. So the project Homework will involve so-called several elements. One important element is what we call the repair and renovation, which are work that have been done by so many other NGOs as well. But at the same time, we will also try to do some decluttering and deep cleaning for the home of the elderly people to improve their living environment. So one very important element of the project Homework is to do home modifications. And as we know, many of the elderly, they have either lived in their own home for several decades, which the old provision is not suitable for the current need. But in fact, many of the old people, they have to move to a new homes, particularly for those poor elderly people on social security. And usually they need to move to the public housing in order to release their problem of housing unaffordability after they retire, or they have to move to a bigger accommodation so that to accommodate their changing needs when they're old age. But in public housing, although the physical provision of housing is quite decent, I would say, and at the same time, the provision of social service, supporting services to the elderly are also decent. But there is a very serious gap in between. Those social services are provided by social welfare organizations with government support, and the public housing are provided by the housing department of the government. But any home improvement that will match with the need. In fact, it's not the purview of any of those organizations. So that's why Habitat for Humanity have spotted this gap, service gap, and we want to mobilize resources to help them. Take, for example, when elderly people move into the a new public housing, and the public housing is designed, in fact, basically for quote unquote ordinary households. But for many of the elderly people, they need that modification. And the modification is not supported by the housing department, nor the housing service, the social service provider, because they know nothing about housing modification. So that's why we will help them to do the modification. And in fact, before the modification, we will involve our other stakeholders. Take, for example, like some assessment agencies or universities to do an assessment for them to see what kind of design, what kind of new installation that are needed for the young people in order to cope with their changing needs. More important, most of the elderly people, either because of aging, because of illness, or because of deteriorating health, they need additional installation in order to help them to adapt to their new way of life. And after those assessments, we will organize our service, other service providers to do the housing installation improvement for them. We will both involve volunteers to do some work that do not need professional provision, because for some of the installation work or the improvement work, the work need a license to do. So that's the time we'll need some professional vendors to do that. But apart from that, we will mobilize a lot of volunteers to do the work, particularly involving volunteers from our corporate owners as some of the package of that donation. It's because we don't just want money. We want to involve the staff as some kind of community engagement to do such work. And in fact, it proved to be quite popular among those big corporations, because that is something that they will discharge their ESG at the same time to consolidate some kind of corporate spirit of their corporation. And we have been quite successful in these activities. So these are also examples that besides the very basic installation and improvement, we also provide some more equipment for them to improve their life. And I won't go into one and one, and it is self-explanatory by the photos. And there are even more home improvement just to facilitate their mobility. And that is also an important target of our improvement and repair work. So before we finish, I would like to share some of the real case experience. So that is one example with an elderly man. We call it Uncle Shared, who is an elderly man just being discharged from hospital and who live in a public housing unit alone. And fortunately, his housing unit is quite big. So that is why we can do more improvement work for him. Take, for example, before the improvement, there is a lot of risk for Uncle Share because of the way of the threshold leading to the balcony, and because of the design of the toilet and bathroom, and also because of the old furnitures. And then we do some further assessment on the risk of injuries that are relatively minor, but it could be quite risky. Take, for example, some sharp, some edge at some cabinet, and also for some other facilities. And there is also some hygienic issues that have been involved because of the long time lack of so-called maintenance, because doing maintenance or routine maintenance is the work of the tenant, so that the public housing department would not be held responsible for that. But because of his health and also because of his lack of resources that have been ignored for many years. So there's perhaps time for us to do a lot of improvement for him, so that we do some first to improve some kind of service improvement for him to paint and repair the ceiling, the floor, and also to change some of the lighting installations, and to mitigate the risk of mobility, and at the same time to install some age-friendly so-called equipment for him. And these are all not very special, but what is special is we mobilize a lot of resources to do such work and not just act as a service provider for him. And in the process, in fact, it improved the well-being of Mr. Shares a lot. So in fact, to conclude, I would like to highlight some of the learning we have. So one of the learning is we will be more forward-looking in looking at the need of the young people, of old people of aging in place, from some remedial service to some preventive service. So that's what we have spent a lot in collaborating with a research center in university to look at the assessment. So the assessment is not look at what problem they face now, but to envisage what problems they will face, for instance, in 5 to 10 years. And also at the same time, to do the home upgrading, not just to solve the problem, but to improve the well-being and the environment of living of the elderly people. So the basic message is not just to solve the problem, but also to enhance some positive impact for the elderly people. So we have done a lot in coordinating and facilitating the integration of different stakeholders, and at the same time, we find some unexpected impact. So one impact is about the impact on our donations, the source of volunteers, and also at the same time, we are able to, through the word of mouth, to introduce, to discover new need in the community for them. So in fact, at the moment, we have just finished our pilot projects of this so-called homework or home improvement. And in the next phase, we have already secured enough funding for the next stage to enlarge not just the coverage, but also about the assessment. At the same time, in fact, we are also helping the research center to refine the assessment tools so that we will also publicize the assessment tools to all other organizations so that other NGOs can use the tools to serve their own clients. So we hope that in the future, our effort and impact can expand, because just with our effort, we have so many elderly people we need to serve, and we will think that we should so-called publicize those tools, and also to invite more stakeholders, more donors, more volunteers to be involved to enlarge the work. So thank you very much for the attention, and I welcome questions in the discussion section. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Yi. Your comprehensive introduction of based on your pilot project. And I think it's very much important, the cross-sectoral collaboration. So you mentioned about diverse stakeholders, how you actually invite them to work together. So we wanna talk about that later. So I think it's time to move to the third speaker, Dr. Alberto Infante. He's the Secretary General of HelpAge Spain. You also have 15 minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the organizers for giving me this Sorry, there has been some sort of problem with the connection. Well, thank you so much again for your kind invitation to be part of this meeting. My presentation is going to move in a very different scenario than the two previous ones, because we are HelpAge Spain, as part of HelpAge International. We are much more an NGO devoted to promote advocacy for the rights of older people, not to provide any sort of services or any. We are not an official body, of course, and we don't provide any sort of services for the older people, but we move basically in the field of the advocacy. The next, please. My presentation is divided in three different parts: who we are, some ideas on where and how to live when you grow older, basically based on our experience in Spain and maybe in other similar Mediterranean European countries, Portugal, Italy, Greece, etc., and several conclusions based on our field experience. The next. This is basically HelpAge International. It's a global network of organizations who promote the right of all the people to live dignified. You may see here the vision and the mission of HelpAge International. Next one. Short review of history of HelpAge International, starting in 1983 and till 2020, when we enthusiastically support the Strategy 2030 of the United Nations, and in the general framework that we are moving right now. HelpAge Spain has no more than 11 years of living, so we are part of HelpAge International since more or less 2010, 2011. The next one. This is the whole network of HelpAge International, more than 190 members across 90 countries. The next one, please. The values of our organization: impact, be inclusive, working with partners, and learning. The next one, please. Some basic facts that you all know quite well. The importance of the people over 65, or even more and more over 75 or even 80 years old. By 2050, more than 2 billion of older people will live in the world, making up more than the fifth of the global population. And an estimated 14 million older people with disabilities are affected by humanitarian disaster. Less than 20% of older people receive a pension in low-income countries, with women less likely to have it. The next one, please. This is our strategy 2030. We want every older person everywhere to be able to say these three basic things: I enjoy well-being, I'm treated with dignity, my voice is heard. And the 10 focus areas: inspire a movement for change, create a society for all ages, etc. But basically, we act as a supporter, a convener, and a thought leader. This is our role. This is how we see ourselves. The next one, please. Now, the second part of my presentation is devoted to present to you and maybe derive some lessons of our experience during the last 2-3 years, basically the years of the pandemics disease in Spain. We have published during these 3 years a collection of notebooks that has been received some money from the Spanish Ministry of Social Rights and the 2030 Agenda on these 6 issues. And the third of them is precisely devoted to where and how to live when you grow older. The next one, please. You have some details here on this collection and on this particular leaflet prepared by a researcher in a university in Madrid. The next one, please. This is the table of contents of this leaflet. The next one, please. What are our main messages derived from this leaflet and from our experience? Well, first of all, the social situation and preferences of the elderly are very diverse, and this is critical in terms of designing public policies. We cannot speak on other people as a uniform group by age, by income, by health situation, by gender, by culture. There are many, many dimensions that has to be taken into account. The second conclusion is that housing is an increasingly important issue for the elderly, for many reasons. Mark Harrington mentioned some of them in his intervention, and I've been totally I totally agree with him. The third message is older people have the fundamental right to decide where and how to live. In many European countries, and many countries in the world, only a final judicial sentence can deprive or limit that right. So, and this is critical because in many respects, I've been a civil servant for many years in my life. So in many occasions, we tend to be excessively paternalistic on older people. Thinking that we know better than them, which are the sort of homes or residential structure where they are best served or live in. No, we think that older people could be in some cases ill, but they are not stupid. They know what they want. The fourth, COVID-19 crisis has deepened pre-existing problems of housing for the elderly, at least in my country. Why? Because 95% of the older people live actually at home with other family members. And the measures to contain the COVID crisis has stressed, in many occasions, this sort of living together at homes with different members of different families, other families, or even different families, both cases. And last but not least, gender intersects with age, producing deeper forms of discrimination in relation to residential choice for women. Women tend to be longer than men, tend to feel themselves in not so well health situation than men, and tend to have less income along their lives, and particularly at the end of their lives. So gender has to be put on the forefront of any sort of public policies on housing for the elderly. The next one, please. Well, here you see some data of the demographic revolution, healthy aging. particularly related to Spain. You could see them on. But my main point here is, again, participating and deciding are part of the basic conditions for health and for having a conducive residential environment. So participation and deciding are the critical elements to have public policies that could serve this particular need. The next one, please. We are not particularly satisfied in Spain about the sort of housing solutions that we have. We suffer a sort of social exclusion of the elderly, which is a mix of some sort of lack or denial of resources, some sort of rights that are in some cases not well respected, and a phenomenon that we have been aware in an acute manner during the last 2 years. The technological gap for the elderly in terms of accessing to the services that the public health or social health authorities offer has been increasing, not decreasing, has been increasing. A lot of municipalities, regions, central government offices, etc., has diminished the presential services of civil servants face-to-face, has put in place solutions that tend to be much more on the screen, and with programs that are not affordable or friendly with the people in general and with the older people in particular. And this is something quite relevant for the rights in general of the older people, and particularly for the issues related with where and how to live. The next one, please. Well, the effect of the COVID-19 on the elderly and all across Europe we have seen them more or less in the same way in most of the countries. And the point here is that we have observed, at least in Spain and probably in other countries, some cases of healthcare denial based on age. This has been critical because age is not per se a condition that could lead to any sort of exclusion, to any sort of treatment, particularly in the treatment of COVID-19. This has been an enormous, has created an enormous debate in my country, and that is still pending on the judicial solution because of that. No? The next one. Next, please. All sorts of polls show that older people prefer to live at home. That's clear. And I mentioned before that older women have lower income security and access to goods and services such as housing. So gender discrimination is intersected by other forms of discrimination, such as race, sexual orientation, abilities, cultural origin, and also age, etc. Remember, it's quite important. Women's longer life expectancy usually means more lonely years, more care needs, and more likely to develop illness and disability. again. The next one, please. So the intersectional analysis of the inequalities suffered by older women is an essential requirement. I repeat that. The next one. This is two examples of international action plans or policy frameworks that we use as a reference for our activities. The new urban agenda approved by United Nations UN Conference on the UN Conference on Housing and Sustainable Urban Development, and the World Network of Friendly Citizen Communities that was promoted by WHO to create urban environments where active and healthy aging is possible. This is, in my view, I'm a medical doctor, of course, quite important. One of the best things that I realize when I walk in Madrid or in Bilbao in Spain is that more and more there are groups of older people in parks and gardens, etc., with monitors paid by the municipalities doing physical activities according to the age. This is wonderful. This is wonderful because not only the direct effect on the health of the people that participate, but also in terms of relation, social contact, prevention even of the mental illness related with loneliness and depression. This is something that is good. This is something that is happening. This is something that is basically paid by the local level of the administrations in my country and in others, probably. The next one, please. This is one of our main efforts, having a global convention on the protection of the human rights of older persons. There is a good precedent in the Inter-American community of nations that has this sort of convention. In Africa, there is an effort at the moment of having an instrument like this, and we are working with the Secretariat of the United Nations to have something like this at the global level. We have some difficulties in Europe, particularly in the countries with Europe, in terms of getting the approval to this initiative, but we are convinced that sooner than later we will have something like this that could help to every country and to social movement of the older people in every country to advance in terms of norms and legislation and public policies on this particular issue. The next one, please. Conclusions? Well, older people are often deprived of the opportunity to choose how and where to live. So this fundamental right to live independently and to be included in the community is violated. This is the result of an IG system that sees aging as a process inevitably linked to the loss of reduction of autonomy and rights. This is not right. This is not more. The majority of the older person tend to live during till the last 3 years of their lives in relatively good health conditions. In relatively good health conditions for the age they have, of course, for the age they are. So identification of older people with disabled people is an stereotype. And this is a stereotype that could not help to older people. Of course, there are older people with disabilities, of course, and they deserve to be treated accordingly. But this is not the reality for the majority. In fact, I am 74 years old. My wife is 75. All my friends have more than that. And they are in relatively good health conditions, at least in the developed world. 2/3 of the humankind, unfortunately, don't have this opportunity. No? Well, during the COVID-19 crisis, older people suffered several violations of their rights and various forms of physical and psychological discomfort derived from the accommodation model in which they found themselves. And at the same time, and I appreciate very much the two previous interventions, particularly on this crisis has underlined the need to create new residential alternatives and spaces for the elderly. In my country, basically, the new emerging model for older people is co-housing. All sorts of models, several models of co-housing, where a number of older people join together, auto-organize themselves, ask for some economic or legal help from the local or regional administration. Spain is a very decentralized country, so this responsibility is in the region and in the municipalities, not in the central government, and decide the way in which they want to live the last years of their lives. And this is a sort of, at the same time, of course, it's an opportunity of business for some companies that are moving in terms of offering as well these different models of housing to the older people. Next one, please. In a nutshell, these three things, very basics. Have a care system that respects the dignity, equality, autonomy, and participation of the beneficiary. Maintain family and community ties. Also, intergenerational ties, that is quite extremely important. We have had in Spain in the last 5 years some local experiences on this sort of initiatives that foster the intergenerational connection in terms of having students, university students or secondary students sharing time with older people in the neighborhoods, and respect each person's cultural value system, which is as important as, in many cases, having a well material sort of house or habitational solution. The next, I don't see. There is one more, the last one. It's quite important to have community and environmental accessibility close to desired services, amenities, and activities. I mean, living in community is something that is for us, and at least in Europe, as important as other material services. Feeling this sort of community, fostering this feeling, help people to remain autonomous and active, promoting participation and healthy aging in general, be easy adaptable and undergo modification as the needs of its inhabitants do. This has been stressed before, and take into account the gender's perspective. These are, in our view, the characteristics that the new models or the models of different habitational solutions could comply with. So this is my contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you for Dr. Alberto Infante. And you mentioned about the Global International Convention is now working. So, so as you might know well, the ASEM Global Aging Center also working for that, convention. So I hope that convention is, shortly introduced for the global world and, ratified at the UN, conference, soon as possible. So I think it's very important about your actually, the focusing on the dignity, equality, and autonomy and participation. So when we design and intervening the new housing model for older person, I think what should be the basis is important, and you actually highlight about that spirit and principles very concisely. So now we are moving to the fourth speaker. It's a little bit difficult to pronounce, to be frankly with you. Wisoi송크램. Am I correct? So I'm not sure. So Deputy Director of Foundation for Older Person Development Thailand, as well as the CEO of Body Home Care Social Enterprises. You also have 15 minutes.
Okay, hello. So, สวัสดีครับ my name is Jenvit from Thailand. So you can call me Jen. It's more like easy to pronounce. So today, I'm very glad to have opportunity to share with you about our initiative, idea of the social enterprise in Thailand. So it's also like any other country in the world that we experiencing a massive demographic change. So Thailand is no exception. So in Thailand, we have 18% of older people, and 1/3 of them living with poverty. So the number of the people need care from the statistical just only 20%, but in regular 50% of them regularly to visit the doctor about the health care. And also in Thailand, we have 12% of people living alone. So the older people living alone is very difficult to live. And also 21% of them living just in couple with the wife or husband. So this is the aging picture in Thailand. And in Thailand, the government use the Bartel ADL index to identify which one is active and also which one is dependency. But even they are active or dependency, most of them living at home. So that means if you would like to encourage them to aging at home, so that means you need to train them about age-friendly environment, healthy literacy, and also health promotion. But anyway, with the dependency, even they living at home, they also need the support from the family, from the volunteer, and also the community-based care. So this is the conceptual framework of the long-term care in Thailand. So because of the older people live longer, the idea that in the past we more focus on the lifespan. So that means we just make the healthy way for them to live longer. But nowadays we think the important is they need to expand the health span. So that means they need to live longer with the active or healthy. So this is something that we would like to attack the orange and red stage of life to reducing, to make they live longer with the active aging. But anyway, government spend a lot of money for the scheme of the for the healthcare. In Thailand, the National Health Security Office pilot the long-term care program since 2016 to encourage the multi-sectorial collaboration for the community-based elderly, targeting dependent and also one living with the disability and chronic disease. But like the NGO or the CSO, we also work with the care workforce in the community, very small, but try to improve the quality of life of the older people living at home. But in the different angle, the private sector also like provide institutional care for like the people who able to pay for the care. So this is like some kind of the stakeholder of the providing care in Thailand. So for my organization, I have worked in two organizations. One on the left-hand side, you can see the Foundation for Older Person Development. We work as the non-profit organization to provide like volunteer-based home care services for the poor older people who living at home and need care. But we also like try to move our perspective to work as the private sector, but more or less is as the social enterprise to like support the society with the like home care program. Yeah. So that means the Foundation for Older Person also work as the traditional charity or the non-profit, but Buddy Home Care is look like in between of the for-profit and non-profit. We work at the social enterprise. So this is the Buddy Home Care work in Thailand. The family have been the bedrock of care and support for old age adult, as the typical family size shrink, and the need of specialized knowledge and experience in care become more important. Many turn to private health service. Older people who cannot afford those services may not be able to receive the critical support they need. So we aim to like provide the community-based care for poor people in the community. But at the same time, Thailand faces the problem of the children living in poverty. On the left-hand side, you can see whose family can not afford their education. This often prevents young people from accessing key opportunity, leading to lifelong struggle and depending inequality in society. More like specific for the like Hill tribe people. On the left hand side, you can see a lot of the like Hill tribe women unable to like continue to study and living in the poverty cycle. So our Buddy Home Care scheme also try to linkage with the SDG goal by reducing the poverty, providing the quality education, and also gender equality. But for the older people, we try to provide the good and well-being. So I would like to share you the video of Buddy Home Care, but it's coming in Thai. So I will like explain in English for you.
ชื่อนางสาวภาสินีปูลาค่ะชื่อเล่นน้องเนมาจากชนเผ่าลาหูครับอำเภอแม่อายจังหวัดเชียงใหม่
So for this lady, her name is Pasini Pula. She is like a Lahu Hill tribe people, and from like up north of Thailand to get the scholarship from Buddy Home Care to train to be the caregiver. And we provide the care services like for customer. So this man is a customer. He's severe of the like stroke and have problem about like mobility. So he also needs the like people who provide like a daily activity care.
เขาขึ้นแล้วก็ไปได้เดินขึ้นบันไดเดินได้
So this is the service that the social enterprise provide for the customer, and we earn the like income from these services.
ธุรกิจเพื่อสังคมแบบนี้เราจะ ตอบสนองความต้องการของผู้สูงอายุหรือครอบครัวที่พอมีกำลังจ่ายเงินที่คุณลุงคุณ
This is another co-founder คุณสว่างแก้วกันทา He's the executive director of the Foundation for Older Person
ยายจ่ายให้กับเราเพื่อเป็นเงินเดือนเด็กนั้นไม่ได้ดูแลผู้สูงอายุยายคนเดียว
The money that customer
เด็กคนเดียวกันเนี่ยก็จะไปดูแลผู้สูงอายุอีกคนในชุมชนแออัดบัดดี้ก็คือเป็นคู่กันใช่ไหมครับเงินหรือว่าค่าใช้จ่ายที่ลุงจ่ายออกมาดูแลได้สองคน
What that mean like buy one get one free sorry and this is the scheme of the home care that provide services for the poor older people. So you can see the team of the this women. She is the village health volunteer to work with Foundation for Older Person. She is also the older person, but she is very active. And she worked with the buddy home care that bring the staff of our team and also the caregiver to visit the older people in the community who need care. So it's very often we visit them twice a week.
เรามีเงื่อนไขว่าน้องๆที่ทำงานกับเราเนี่ยในช่วงวันหยุดเนี่ยหรือว่าน้องที่ช่วงว่างเนี่ยน้องจะต้องลงพื้นที่
This is another co-founder คุณนราทิพย์เทพมงคลor คุณยุ้ย You're also one of the staff of Foundation for Older Person who become the founder of Buddy Home Care. In a HelpAge network, we also provide opportunity to the staff of the foundation to exchange and learn from the network of the HelpAge. After she learned about the social enterprise scheme, and then she come back to initiative the idea of Buddy Home Care in Thailand.
เชียงใหม่เนี่ยเขาว่าจะต้องเอาความรู้ที่เขาอบรม3 เดือนเนี่ยไปช่วยแนะนำให้อาสาสมัครเนี่ย
scholarship
ดูแล
for
ผู้สูง
the
อายุยากไร้ในเขตพื้นที่นู้นได้อย่างเหมาะสม
to train to be the caregiver. The curriculum is take 3 months to train them. Then after they graduate, we hire them as the caregiver.
ดีมากๆ
And we provide the service for customer. And we use the profit from the business to provide free services.
เอาแข้งเอาขาไปยกขึ้นอย่างอันอย่างนี้
scheme that we do more regular with the project in the past from HelpAge Korea that call volunteer-based home care. I think you at least know about the scheme of the Buddy Home Care, and this is the story of Buddy Home Care. You can see the red phase. So we get support from HelpAge Korea since 2003 to run the pilot program of the ROC ASEAN volunteer-based home care. Is the idea of provide the volunteer scheme to provide free services for older people in the community. So the ROC ASEAN and HelpAge Korea also encourage the country member in ASEAN country to replicate this idea to their own country. But after 2010, the project end. So that means the need still exist, and the older people that we used to provide the free services is around 200 older people still need care. So we continue to the second phase as the green one. We try to initiative the idea of social enterprise by develop the business idea and then get the small grant or seed fund to try to do the pilot or the prototype of care services in Thailand. And then we initiative the social enterprise. We founding the Buddy Home Care in 2019. So I think everyone know that in 2019, all around the world facing the a COVID pandemic, but our social enterprise still able to survive for that pandemic. So that means the business model still need and also generate the income for the a business sector and provide the profits to provide the free services for the poor older people. So we aim for the three group of the target or the beneficiary. On the left hand side, you can see the poor children, mostly Hill tribe people. On the middle is the middle class income or the customer who also need care. And on the right hand side is the poor one that a previous group that we run as the non-profit to provide the free services for them. And then we come up with this simple model. One is provide scholarship to train the Hill tribe people to be the caregiver. And two, we hire them to provide the professional home health care services for customers. So this is the the main revenue from the social enterprise. And three, we still continue to provide the support to the community-based home care scheme. And this is very advantageous in Thailand because we have the act of the law of the social enterprise that allow us to do the crowdfunding or public donation to get this money to provide services for the poor older people. So that means the business core team can financial sustain by the business and also use the profit to provide the community-based home care scheme and also get the public donation or the project grant 100% to support for the community-based home care. So since 2016, at the same time of the Thai government provide the scheme of the long-term care, we already trained 85 poor children. But in this year also we train 10 more. So that means by the next month we will have 95 children that get beneficiary from this scheme. And the money that we already spend for train them is almost 3.5 million Thai baht. But along the time that we run the business, we also paid for hiring to work for the Buddy Home Care staff. It's almost 10 million Thai baht already. So that means the long that the business run is also provide the financial security for the disadvantaged Hill tribe children. And in every year, for the average of a customer that we provide the services is around 80 people. So that means it's the regular customer that get the services. So from this number of customer, we have the margin that able to provide the free services for 600 older people in regular. But in the COVID-19 pandemic, we have emergency response and help another add-on beneficiary around 3,700 people. So this is something that lead to the sustainability way to continue to provide opportunity to them to living at home. So this is something that we calculate about the social return on investment. So it come up with the number that if you invest for the scheme like body home care 1 baht, so that means it can return as the social impact. So calculate as the 5 baht. So this is calculated by the Cell Forest under the program that we work with Thai Health Promotion Foundation. So this is a team. All the team members also work in the past as the staff of Foundation for Older Person Development that run as the non-profit. But we can shifting the idea of the volunteer-based home care into more a sustainable way as the social enterprise with the many partner you can see from the logo, including HelpAge. So and not just only we run the social innovation or the social scheme like that to provide opportunity for the older people to aging in their place, but we also developing the a technology like application to provide the data and also the individual care plan for the customer and also for the community to use this. The volunteer can use this application to regularly check up. The family member also can access to this application to following up and help each other to giving care for their old parent, and also the caregiver, even the doctor who visit the older people at home, so they can access to this information. So the application and also the scheme of the social innovation that lead to the award of the 2020 Happy Grand Prize winner. So this is something that guarantee that if you develop the best or the good social innovation and also including the technology innovation, it lead to make the older people more advanced to living in their own place. So in the future, the social enterprise scheme also need to improve to the next step to make the in the final goal, we also need the assisted living. So that means not just only the nursing home, but in every area, it should be the scheme of body home care, nursing home, and also assisted living in their local area. So that means right now, not just only in Chiang Mai, so it should be replicate this model to nearby provinces first, and then in the future, next 5 or 10 years, so we also need to expand this throughout Thailand. So this is the idea of the body home care. Thank you.
Thank you, Genevieve. So it's really, you introduce about very much holistic, approaches based on the demand and supply. Actually, there's a chain and the what can I say, the cycles of the demand supply as well as in non-profit and also the social enterprise. So it's very innovative, actually experiment what you actually doing now. So I hope we learned more, but unfortunately we are very much a shortage of time. So we have now the last but least in the speakers, Dr. Kim Jong-hee, representative of Gangwon Medical Welfare Social Cooperative. So we have another cooperative, model. So we have a social enterprise model, non-profit model, and the community-based one. And here's the cooperative model. So you also have 15 minutes.
Good afternoon. As have been introduced, I am Kim Jong-hee. I am a representative of Gangwon Medical Welfare Social Cooperative. Pleased to meet you. Today, I would like to talk about isolation and home health care. Of course, there are different reasons for isolation. But when we think about home health care, it is not only about medical services. It does not mean extending hospital medical services to the home of older persons. Home health care for those who are in isolation is about going to the home of the client. And so it is a new experience. And whenever we go into the home, we always think about how to establish a healthy relationship. And so it is quite a challenging task. The presentation material that I have prepared today is based on 7 nurses and 3 doctors working on home health care together for the last 7 years. As I mentioned before, home health care is about caring medicine. So we visit the homes and it's actually focused on the care aspect. And then I would like to talk to you about the various aspects of care. So home health care happens in all communities. For example, even if a large hospital is next to this building, if an old lady is living in that building on the 3rd story and she cannot go down the stairs, then a hospital in the next building is not something that is accessible. And so she thought that the only way that she would be leaving the building is only when she passes away. And she received home care services. So home health care is not just for doctorless villages, but it is for our neighbors. Second, home health care or caring medicine is making house calls, and if the patient's family receives the prescription instead of the patient, then the patient-doctor relations will not be established. Here you can see a lot of doctors. So an elderly woman asked for a home health care service, and she said she's not feeling good. And we went to the home of this patient, and she had so much medication at home. And so she actually had all this prescribed medicines, and she had her family continuing to receive prescription medication because she could not go to the hospital herself. And the doctors would continue to provide her with years of prescribed medication, but they no longer met her symptoms because her symptoms are different from 1 year ago when she last met her doctor. And so what we did was we took out all of her medicine and we did blood tests on her, and we identified the medicines that she would need and medicines that she would not be needing. And so we continue to prescribe adequate medication for her ever since then. But this process takes a lot of effort and time. Of course, the situation is different from country to country. In Korea, many of the older patients, they actually receive prescription medicine from 6 to 8 doctors. So what we need to do is to make sure that they are not over-medicated. And that is why we need the multiple medication management insurance cost system. So when we think about prescription, you will know how important it is for the doctor to actually meet their patient. And on the left, you can see that the patient is living in a situation that is like an island, because if the patients continue to send their family to the doctor for prescription medicine, then they will be like someone who is isolated on an island because they will not be meeting their doctor. But through house calls, doctors will be able to meet their patients face to face, and there will be a healthy relationship built between the doctor and patient, which means that a safer prescription can be made. So when we visit the homes of patients, then we need to provide them with critical medical service. So when we talk about patients, if there's an emergency situation, for example, if a mother is about to give birth or if there is a heart failure, then we need to make sure that they have access to medical facilities. And that actually is shown in the critical medical service indicator. So there are more and more patients who do not have access to a hospital, even if the hospital is next door. And so that is why we need to renew our critical medical service indicators. So in order to boost accessibility, we need to include house calls. And so when we have the balance with patients' accessibility to medical services and medical professionals' accessibility to patients, then we would be able to exercise preventive medicine, and that would actually encourage aging in place. And so this is the question that we always come to. How are we able to reflect the rights of isolated patients to access health? Well, this is the fourth point that I would like to make. In Korea, about 3 to 5 years ago, we had a trial project for home visits. And so we do see a little bit of an increase in home visits. But legally, doctors and nurses can make these home visits, but patients actually need therapists and also other medical professionals to visit their homes. For example, if the patient had surgery and they need rehabilitation, then they will need to have therapists come to their home. And so on the right, you can see a picture of an elderly patient with cerebral palsy, and she has disabilities. And all of a sudden, she can experience that her legs and arms are becoming stiff. And so she can't even lie down to sleep. And so she's always sitting on that chair. So what she needs is for therapists to visit her home for physical therapy. And so she needs physical therapy at home. But in Korea, legally, that is not possible. And so home health care needs to be enabled through our laws and regulations. We work through the public health centers and the centers for people with disabilities so that we can create a system for home visits by rehabilitation experts or nursing experts. So here you can see another picture. This is actually a dramatic case. Just a year ago, she was fragile and she had a spinal injury, and so she was bedridden. All she could do was twist around on her bed to eat some soup, and her son actually helped her with the bathroom using diapers. And her wish was to actually sit in a chair to eat. And she also had a wish to actually make it to the bathroom so that she can sit on a toilet to relieve herself. And so we conducted home visit rehabilitation through our local center for people with disabilities. And now she can sit up and she can actually pull herself up using a bar on her ceiling. And here you can see she can sit on the chair to eat. She can go to the bathroom. and she can use a walker to walk. And so home visit rehabilitation actually changed her life. Next is home visit oral health care. People with disabilities, in particular, older persons with disabilities need home visit oral care. So here you can see all of this equipment that was brought by this nurse, and she checks the oral health of this person lying down, and they also conduct oral massages. And this was also quite a shocking example. There was a woman in her 60s with intellectual disabilities. She had dentures, but she did not know that dentures were not her actual teeth. And so she never took out her dentures to clean her dentures. And so all she could do was to eat some noodles and nothing else because her dentures were in so poor conditions. But with just a week of home oral care, she was able to chew, she was able to eat, and she actually really loved radishes, and she called and said, you know, I think I can eat radishes now. And so as a doctor, although I'm not a dentist, this was a miracle that I saw as an example. And so patients have all of these desires and requests for their everyday life. And I only have 15 minutes, so I think I probably have just a minute or two. So I think I'm just going to skim through the rest of the slides. So I have shared a few case studies with you. And each and every person has their own story. And these are not stories of just these individuals. They are quite universal for older people. And so I do believe that we need to pay attention to the stories of these individuals. And let me go through just some of the slides that I have prepared. So home care is not just about medical services, but we also have to provide education and training. This person was fragile and so thin, but this person was able to improve their health conditions because we actually trained the person who was her caretaker. And so we become a team. The caretakers for people with disabilities, the elderly people, and even this dog could be our partner in taking care of the patients at home. Well, I don't have enough time, so I can't explain everything. Well, I would like to take some time to take a look at this example. So on the left, we see a meal on the table. Before COVID-19, a lot of the people actually wanted us to eat with them when we visited their homes. And it was a great joy for these older persons to eat with us. Well, there was this couple and the husband had Parkinson's. And on this phone, there's the phone number, and the wife actually had dementia. And so the person who visited this home trained the wife to use this telephone to call this person with the phone number on the phone. And so that actually helped her prepare for emergency situations because we could teach her to make that call when she is in trouble. So you may think, what can a doctor do with just a single home visit? But you have to think about the fact that we can connect her with the local community and help her build healthy relationships. And that actually leads to a bigger role that can be played by home visits. On the right side, you see two motorized scooters. And these scooters are owned by brothers. One person was constipated and one person was not. This was because one person actually got abdominal massages for 2 to 3 minutes every day by the caretaker. And that person could eat and constipation was solved. And the other person did not have that care, and that person was constipated for a very long time. The person with constipation was taken care of by a person who was new as a caretaker, and so she did not know about the abdominal massages. But a doctor went on a home visit, and the doctor taught her to do the abdominal massage, and that actually led to the improvement of the health of this patient. So when you are isolated, they have too much time, and that time is very painful. So how are they going to spend all this time? And I saw that some older persons drew, some older persons worked on copying a book with their own penmanship. Some older persons were working on calligraphy. And so living with dignity is very important. And this was an amazing example as well. She was isolated and she was lonely. And she was provided with a lot of products, milk, apples. And so she had all this packaging. And so she used packaging to make flowers. She was a Catholic person, and you can see that her whole living room was filled with flowers that she had made from recyclable packaging. And we said, how did you make so many flowers? And she said, she made these flowers because she wanted to live. Her whole life is making these flowers because she was living in isolation, and she could spend all her time making these flowers. And so home visits need to be expanded. That will lead to relationship building. It will lead the older persons to get out of lethargic everyday lives. And so if opportunities arise, we would like to have mobile workplaces. If people can work, they become healthier. So people with disabilities, if they have a job, they can live a healthier life. Here you can see people with disabilities assembling pens or folding packagings. That actually helps them live a social life. And when I went to Japan, I saw a person with developmental disabilities who was trained to be a caretaker of older people. And because she could work, she was healthier than other people. But people, the older persons who are isolated at home, we have to think about them. We have to think about what kind of activities they can do. For example, we can bring them work to do and then collect it after they're done. And we can provide compensation for their work. It could be in cash, it could be in goods. And we will be able to see older persons with a big smile on their face. And that is why I believe mobile workplaces should be considered and systematized. And on the upper right corner, this is Book Start, started in the UK. And we do have Book Start programs in Korea. For example, when children are born, they are provided with this Book Start package so that they can spend their lives reading. I think Seoul started this program, but it's expanding to areas outside of the capital area. But what about older persons above the age of 70 or 65? So when they reach the age of 65, we can provide them with a picture book package so that they can draw their own books with this package. They can write down their stories with these packages. They had lived a long life, so they have all these stories to share. So they can share their stories with these books. Yes, I will end my presentation soon. So we are sure that the older persons are able to live healthier lives through the activities. Well, I'm sorry that I went over time. I'm sorry.
I feel sorry. It's a really pity and and shame to stop you. But it's already 6 o'clock. 1 minute to 6 o'clock, so we have to wrap up the whole day's meeting. We only have 1 minute, so if you have any questions or comment, so you have 1 minute. It's the last chance. So I'll give a chance for the floor first. No questions. What about the?
Please use a microphone for interpretation.
Okay, so it's really important, document for the presentation papers. So it would be good for you to read the rest of the documentation which is not being covered in this session. So since there is no questions and hands raised, so I'd rather, okay, so you are the last one. Yeah, okay, please go ahead.
아주 짧은 질문 드리겠습니다.
A very brief question. I am Yang-Sook, Professor of Social Service from Daegu University. My question is to Dr. Kim.
커뮤니티 케어나
So when we think about community care or aging in place, home visits by medical professionals are very important. We are well aware of that. So through your examples, you talked about very effective ways, but why doesn't the national insurance system cover home visits?
Okay, you can answer.
Why doesn't the national health insurance cover this? Well, there are many reasons that we can think about, but I do believe that the first reason is because medical professionals, they are not used to home visits. In order for a person to become a doctor, they are at medical school for 6 years, and then they are trained as interns and residents for the next 4 to 5 years, and they are locked in a large hospital throughout the 10 years. They don't become a part of the community. And so in training to become a medical doctor, it does not focus on the humanity side of medical education. It does not mingle with the local community. And so the training, the 10 years of training for medical doctors, it does not train them to become aware of the patients that are not able to come to the hospital. And so the first reason is because of this reason. And so the medical professionals, they don't have an understanding of home care and home visits. So we need to restructure the training for medical doctors. And we do have some requests from the large hospitals to participate in home visits and home care. And on the policy level, the policymakers, they do not have policies that reflect the realities of the field. Of course, there are expert advisory groups, but we need to make sure that the content of these meetings are restructured so that it reflects the realities. I always see that there are distortions in the policy-making process. And so that is something that we have to discuss.
Thank you for all the questions and answers. This is very much, important and very valuable questions and answers. So hope we can keep on going to discussion about the curriculum of the professional training courses, as well as the policy, how we can include the public health insurance, focus on more focus on the home visiting actually professionals. We nourishing, if you educating them more and more, this cooperative experiments will be expanded and duplicated in many other places, rather more beyond the Wonju area, Wonju cooperative. Thank you for all 5 speakers, Mr. Mark Harrington and Professor Ming, and also the Dr. Alberto Infante and Mr. Geneva. I'm gonna correctly pronounce Wisoi송크램 and Dr. Kim Jong-hee. So I'm gonna wrap up. So as I already mentioned, it's really pitied. We just have only 2 hours. I think we need 2 more days to discuss about and share this impairment and project, what we've been actually doing many of different areas of the world. So I hope we're gonna have another chance to discuss about this, case, best practices. And thank you for all the floors as well as the Zoom, audiences. I'm gonna wrap up this session. So I'm gonna give the microphone to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, our speakers and moderator. Please give them a big hand again, please. Thank you. Thanks to their meaningful presentation, we could hear the voices from the different cases in the world, and we had an opportunity to learn about the various strategies and programs to solve the problems. Thank you very much. All right, this concludes the first day of this forum. Thank you very much for your active participation. And the second day of this forum will resume tomorrow at 1 p.m. So please come back here before 1 p.m. I was Sejong Park. Thank you very much.